Chapter 32 of Initials Only. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Initials Only by Anna Catherine Green. Book 3. The Heart of Man. Chapter 32. Tell me, tell it all. The day was a grey one, the first of the kind in weeks. As Doris stepped into the room where Oswald sat, she felt how much a ray of sunshine would have encouraged her, and yet how truly these leaden skies and this dismal atmosphere expressed the gloom which soon must fall upon this hopeful, smiling man. He smiled because any man must smile at the entrance of so lovely a woman. But it was an abstracted smile, and Doris, seeing it, felt her courage falter for a moment, though her steps did not, nor her steady, compassionate gaze. Advancing slowly, and not answering because she did not hear some casual remark of his, she took her stand by his side, and then slowly, and with her eyes on his face, sank down upon her knees, still without speaking, almost without breathing. His astonishment was evident, for her air was strange and full of presage, as, indeed, she had meant it to be. But he remained as silent as she, only reached out his emaciated hand and, laying it on her head, smiled again, but this time far from abstractedly. Then, as he saw her cheeks pale in terror for the task before her, he ventured to ask gently: "What is the matter, child? So weary, eh? Nothing worse than that, I hope. Are you quite strong this morning? Strong enough to listen to my troubles? Strong enough to bear your own, if God sees fit to send them?" came hesitantly from her lips, as she watched the effect of each word, in breathless anxiety. "Troubles? There can be but one trouble for me," was his unexpected reply. "That I do not fear, will not fear in my hour of happy recovery. So long as Edith is well, Doris." "Doris? You alarm me. Edith is not ill, not ill?" The poor child could not answer save with her sympathetic look and halting, tremulous breath, and these signs he would not, could not read. His own words had made such an echo in his ears. "Ill? I cannot imagine Edith ill. I always see her in my thoughts as I saw her on that day of our first meeting, a perfect, animated woman with the joyous look of a glad, harmonious nature. Nothing has ever clouded that vision. If she were ill, I would have known it. We are so truly one that, Doris. Doris, you do not speak. You know the depth of my love, the terror of my thoughts. Is Edith ill?" The eyes gazing wildly into his, slowly left his face and raised themselves aloft with a sublime look. Would he understand? Yes, he understood, and the cry which rang from his lips stopped for a moment the beating of more than one heart in that little cottage. "Dead!" he shrieked out, and fell back fainting in his chair, his lips still murmuring in semi-unconsciousness, "Dead! Dead!" Doris sprang to her feet, thinking of nothing but his wavering, slipping life till she saw his breath return, his eyes refill with light. Then the horror of what was yet to come, the answer which must be given to the "how" she saw trembling on his lips, caused her to sink again upon her knees in an unconscious appeal for strength. If that one sad revelation had been all. But the rest must be told. His brother exacted it, and so did the situation. Further waiting, further hiding of the truth would be insupportable after this. But oh, the bitterness of it! No wonder that she turned away from those frenzied, wildly demanding eyes. "Doris!" She trembled and looked behind her. She had not recognized his voice. Had another entered? Had his brother dared? No. They were alone. Seemingly so, that is. She knew, no one better than that, they were not really alone, that witnesses were within hearing, if not within sight. "Doris!" he urged again, and this time she turned in his direction and gazed aghast. If the voice were strange, what of the face which now confronted her? The ravages of sickness had been marked, but they were nothing to those made in an instant by a blasting grief. She was startled, although expecting much, and could only press his hand while she waited for the question he was gathering strength to utter. It was simple when it came, just two words. "How long?" She answered them as simply. "Just as long as you have been ill," said she. Then, with no attempt to break the inevitable shock, she went on. "Miss Challoner was struck dead, and you were taken down with typhoid on the self same day." "Struck dead? Why do you use that word, struck? Struck dead? She, a young woman?" "Oh, Doris, an accident. My darling has been killed in an accident." "They do not call it accident. They call it what it never was." "What it never was," she insisted, pressing him back with frightened hands, as he strove to rise. "Miss Challoner was—" How nearly the word shot had left her lips. How fiercely above all else in that harrowing moment had risen the desire to fling the accusation of that word into the ears of him who listened from his secret hiding place. But she refrained out of compassion for the man she loved, and declared instead: "Miss Challoner died from a wound. How given, why given, no one knows. I had rather have died myself than have to tell you this. Oh, Mr. Brotherson, speak, sob, do anything but—" She started back, dropping his hands as she did so. With quick intuition she saw that he must be left to himself if he were to meet this blow without succumbing. The body must have freedom if the spirit would not go mad. Conscious, or perhaps not conscious, of his release from her restraining hand, albeit profiting by it, he staggered to his feet, murmuring that word of doom. "Wound! Wound! My darling died of a wound? What kind of a wound?" he suddenly thundered out. "I cannot understand what you mean by wound. Make it clear to me. Make it clear to me at once. If I must bear this grief, let me know its whole depth. Leave nothing to my imagination, or I cannot answer for myself. Tell it all, Doris." And Doris told him. She was on the mezzanine floor of the hotel where she lives. She was seemingly happy and had been writing a letter to me which they never forwarded. There was no one else by but some strangers, good people whom one must believe. She was crossing the floor when suddenly she threw up her hands and fell. A thin, narrow paper cutter was in her grasp, and it flew into the lobby. Some say she struck herself with that cutter, for when they picked her up they found a wound in her breast which that cutter might have made. "Edith, never!" The words were chokingly said. He was swaying, almost falling, but he steadied himself. "Who says that?" he asked. It was the coroner's verdict. "And she died that way, died?" "Immediately." "After writing to you?" "Yes." "What was in that letter?" "Nothing of threat, they say, only just cheer and expressions of hope. Just like the others, Mr. Brotherson." "And they accuse her of taking her own life. Their verdict is a lie. They did not know her." Then, after some moments of wild and confused